Hi there, I'm TheFarmerJ, and welcome back to Jay Plays every Harvest Moon and Story of Seasons game. This is the series where I play 1 year of every Harvest Moon and Story of Seasons game. Today's video is about Harvest Moon Game Boy Color 3. Harvest Moon Game Boy Color 3 was developed by Victor Interactive Software for the Game Boy Color. It was released in Japan in September 2000 under a name that translates to Farm Story GB3, Boy Meets Girl. It was released in November 2001 in North America and PAL regions. There aren't a lot of reviews from the time online for the game, but it received a 70 on IGN. One point the reviewer made was that it was unusual that the game was released for the Game Boy Color after the Game Boy Advance was already out in North America. It was, however, released in Japan prior to the release of the Game Boy Advance there, so I imagine this was just due to the time it took to localize the game. But this does follow a trend that started with the original game for the SNES, which released for the SNES in Japan after the release of the Nintendo 64. It seems like these games were often just a little bit behind the times. Harvest Moon GBC3 allows you to play as a male or female character, and that has a huge effect in this game. I only played through the first year of the game as a male character, but I think that this game really has some replay value due to the differences. When playing as a male character, GBC3 features the protagonist of GBC2 and is a direct continuation. The farmer was successful in fixing up the farm in Flowerbud Village, and he's told that there's a woman on a farm on an island who needs your help. When playing as a female character, you grew up on the island and inherit the farm after your father's death, but you need help to take care of it. The overall goal of the game is to ship enough products, have enough animals, and high enough relationships with others by the end of the second year. Before I get into game mechanics further, one aspect of this game at the start that is new is character customization. Well, sort of. You can choose your character's outfit color, though the color you choose for your bandana as a male character changes the female character's hair color, as well as some other random sprites in the game. I really have no idea what that's about. Please drop a comment if you happen to know. You also pick your character's birthday and blood type. The blood type doesn't have any effect on gameplay. My understanding is that in Japanese culture, blood type is often said to be related to personality traits, so it's a way for you to add a little bit more personality to your character's backstory. Finally, you have the option to choose a dog, cat, bird, or pig as a pet, and you're given several dog and cat options to choose from. The dogs keep your livestock happy even if left out overnight. The cats can bring in different seasons' seeds to you depending on the color of cat you choose. The bird can bring any season's seeds, and the pig can bring you money. The farming component of the game isn't much different from previous games. You clear the field of stumps, rocks, and weeds, till the land, plant seeds, water them, harvest them, the usual. There are turnips, potatoes, and asparagus in the spring, tomatoes, corn, and watermelon in the summer, and eggplant, peanuts, and sweet potato in the fall. And yes, I did go a bit wild with the sweet potatoes again. In your second year, you can also unlock rice and wheat, but I didn't get that far. Caring for your animals is also very similar to other games. There are sheep, cows, chickens, and horses. All you really need to do is feed them and talk to them. You can have up to 8 of each animal in this game, including horses. There are separate barns for each animal type, and there are 2 separate areas in each barn. I'm guessing that might be due to hardware limitations of the Game Boy Color. While there are similarities between this game and past games, it's really different from others in the series. I'll try to keep this video as organized as possible, but it's a weird game with so many little quirks, so it's not always easy. Harvest Moon Game Boy Color 3 takes place on an island, and there's little to do on the island itself. There's the farm, an area you can forage and gather wood, a forest where you can find a fishing area, a cliff with a scenic view, and the main town. There are a few townspeople who you can talk to and befriend through giving them things you foraged or grew, but you can't enter any of the buildings in town, and there are no shops. In order to purchase seeds, animals, and other things necessary for life on the farm, you must travel by boat with Captain Kirk to the mainland, and you can only take the boat on Mondays and Thursdays when it isn't raining or snowing. At first, this really annoyed me. especially when I had 4 possible boat days in a row where it was raining, so I couldn't purchase anything for that entire time. But honestly, it did start to grow on me a little after a while. It added an element of planning to the game and a bit of an additional challenge. Shipping items in this game is very different from other games, and I was confused at first about this. You have to first deposit whatever items you're holding into your storage by walking through the door of the shed. Then you go into your house and call the Farmers Union on the phone and click on the items and the amounts that you would like to sell. It's quite annoying to have to do the phone call repeatedly to sell multiple things, and do keep in mind that the items in storage only last for 5 days before disappearing. There are a few cutscenes in town with the characters, and you get to know them a little bit. Definitely befriend Billy and Elsa though, because Billy will give you a fishing rod, and the two of them will eventually, spoiler alert, give you a boat of your own that allows you to travel to the island on any day and in any weather. And that boat makes the game so much more enjoyable. Kate though, she's the worst. Don't talk to her. She stole my cat and lied about it. I'll never forgive her. You can also get to know the characters who are on the mainland, and a few of them were previously featured in other titles, such as Chet and Choco from GBC2, and Mary, who's featured in many other games, including GBC2, 64, and Back to Nature. And fishing. Fishing itself is very basic, but it's a way to pass the time when there's no other farm work to be done. The fish in this game have names of real-life fish, similar to how it is in GBC2, and there's even an aquarium that you can donate fish to and visit on the mainland. Also, I accidentally found out that you can fish from the boat, and that was a fun surprise. As I said earlier, the gender you choose to play as in the game has a major effect. You can choose the name for the player character and the other character, but for the sake of clarity, I'll call them by the default names Pete and Sarah, though we all know the real name is Jay. When you play as Pete, your primary task is to take care of crops. You start with some free seeds and something called miracle gloves, which are amazing. I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit concerned at first because many of the games call the special potion that makes the animals have a baby Miracle Potion, and fortunately there is no relation. The Miracle Gloves allow you to harvest the crops and drop them on the ground, and then they are immediately deposited into your storage shed. You only normally get these gloves when you're playing as Pete, and that's one aspect that makes it much less pleasant to play as Sarah. Another quick note about crops, whether you're playing as Pete or Sarah, is to buy the Scarecrow ASAP, since random crops you have growing will be destroyed every day by birds without it. If Sarah's your partner, you can ask her to pick up animal products, take care of the animals, or anything, which means she'll do both. At first, Sarah will often miss picking up some of the products, so you may need to do it yourself. When playing as Pete, you're not able to milk your cow or shear your sheep, so it's necessary to have Sarah do these things. Like I said before, I only played as the male character, so some of the info here is from fogu.com, which I highly recommend checking out. When you play as Sarah, you start out with a cow as well as a brush and a milker. You're not able to get those tools and other tools relating to animal care if you play as Pete, unless you use the trading feature that used the Game Link cable. If Pete's your partner on the farm, he can be directed to focus on clearing the land, tilling the soil, planting seeds, watering, or harvesting. Early on, however, he'll be pretty bad at his job and you'll still need to water many of the crops yourself. Early on, when Sarah was less skilled, I found it annoying to ask her to take care of the animals when she often did a poor job, but once she was able to accomplish the tasks every time, it was pretty convenient to have her completely focus on the animals while I focused on the crops. The social aspect of the game is very limited compared to many of the console games, but it's definitely more in-depth compared to the other Game Boy Color games. Like I talked about before, you can develop friendships with other people in the game, and there are events or things that they might give you. A major new feature in this game, though, is that you can get married, which was not possible in the other Game Boy games. At first, I was giving lots of gifts to Elsa because who wouldn't want to marry a cool pirate lady, but I soon learned that you can only marry Pete or Sarah depending on who you're playing as. The romance is very surface level. You give gifts to Pete or Sarah, and eventually their dialogue starts to change a little bit until eventually there's a proposal scene, and then a few days after that, a wedding. And if you're playing as Sarah, that's it. Game over. El fin. I'm not joking. The game ends if you're playing as the female character and get married, which is not great. This also happened in Harvest Moon for Girl, which was the girl version of Back to Nature, only released in Japan. I'm really hoping that this is the last game that treats playing as a woman like that, because I don't love that. If you're playing as Pete, things continue as normal after you get married, but Sarah's now your spouse, and dialogue reflects that. Eventually, she'll get pregnant, and you can have up to 2 children. I played for 1 year, and that's where I ended my playthrough. I was married and awaiting our firstborn child. And in real life, we're currently awaiting our firstborn child. And it's scary and exciting and completely unknown territory. Who will our child become? What challenges will we face? What mistakes will we make? Somehow I have the sneaking suspicion that parenthood may be a little more difficult than raising a baby in a Harvest Moon game, believe it or not. But I'm happy to have a great partner by my side. I said it before and I'll say it again. Harvest Moon Game Boy Color 2 is a weird game. There are many mechanics in this game that I'm pretty sure are unique to this game, or at least very uncommon in the franchise. In the first season, I became annoyed with some of these differences, but as I played more, I started to enjoy it. It was honestly refreshing to play a farming sim with a little less predictability. I have no idea if this is controversial or not, but if I had to recommend only one Game Boy Color game in the franchise, I would recommend this one. There's a lot more to do in this game than in the other 2 Game Boy Color titles, and it's also not unnecessarily difficult just to pad out the time. For example, I was able to earn enough money in the first year to get at least one of every animal type, unlike in GBC2 where getting a sheep was a mere dream. Also, I played on an emulator on the computer, but I suspect that this game would be pretty relaxing to play on a handheld emulator or the actual Game Boy Color. Oh yeah, and I think I also finally learned what confirm the origin of fire was supposed to mean from the original game. Pay attention to what you're doing and don't light your kitchen on fire. Thanks, Natsume Localization. This has been TheFarmerJ. Due to the impending arrival of J Jr., it may be a little while before my next upload. But the next game that I'll be playing is Harvest Moon Save the Homeland, moving on up to the PS2. Have you ever played Harvest Moon Game Boy Color 3? What did you like or dislike about it? I suspect that this game has fewer people who have played it, but I'd be interested to hear what others' experiences are. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more, consider subscribing. See you next time!